Did you know that the SAT is racist?
When you look at the person who created the SAT test, these were avowed eugenicists.
Some were, and a few years ago, claims of racism led most colleges to stop requiring
Claims of racism. But, okay, right there's the problem. Claims of racism, at the time that they were making those claims, there was nothing racist about the SAT. Not in 2020, there was nothing racist about the SAT.
the test.
The University of California system will no longer require applicants to submit ACT or SAT scores.
But now, 5 years later, the tests are making a comeback. I'll cover the reversal in a moment, but first, here's our report from a few years ago on the attacks on the tests.
Some schools now won't even look at scores. Why? Partly because richer kids often get tutoring help that gives...
Yep, I was one of those tutors for like a year or two. It's definitely true. It's people that could pay for SAT tutors, they can improve their scores like 400 points or more. It makes a huge difference.
gives them unfair advantage. And because some minority groups don't score as well.
If more
Yes, this is the bullshit argument. Oh, minority scores don't score as well, so the test must be racist. I can tell you, whites, there are some very wealthy whites that are paying for tutors that are bringing up the whites average. That there's nothing racist about that. Generational wealth. No, the father who works really hard to make sure the kid can go to college, have the life he couldn't have. You know, that's generational wealth. There's nothing racist about it.
more universities began to become
It's classes, exactly. It discriminates against the poor, but it's not based on race. Poor whites are at the same disadvantage as poor blacks.
test optional. This would allow more students to be accepted into a wider
Yes, there's more generational wealth with whites, but that's not racist. And when reality rolled the dice, the Industrial Revolution happened in Europe and the United States, and so you have a lot more generational wealth in the hands of white people. That's just the way it worked out. It's not racism. Yeah, it's just facts.
range of colleges.
Real learning is not standardized. So why judge children in schools just by test scores?
Commercials from this group helped persuade colleges to dump tests.
I mean, these are businesses selling products. The College Board is $1 billion a year business. Its president was paid over $1 million.
Fair Test president says test companies just want to make money.
Like the tobacco industry, giving you the best.
Well, yes, they're companies. They want to make money. And just like entertainment companies, they just want to make money. Although I shouldn't use that example because these days you have woke activists at entertainment companies throwing away profits for ideology. But if you don't have a company that's warped like that, yes, their goal should be to make money.
Best spin on what they can do.
What's wrong with the tests?
Well, the test makers themselves admit that the SAT and ACT are inferior predictors of college performance.
Inferior? Well, test makers...
Inferior? I'd call doubt on that. I'd say that if you score higher on your SATs, you're more likely to do well in college.
do admit that high school grades predict 33% of college grades, while tests predict 32%. Not...
That's pretty good prediction still. That means one test, one standardized test like the SAT is as good a predictor as basically your entire high school GPA history. I'd say that's damn good.
very inferior. And using both grades and SATs is best at predicting grades, which makes the tests useful.
Exactly, right there. It's useful.
If you're a Latino immigrant who goes to a lousy high school, but you test well, you've got a shot.
That might help. It's a diamond in the rough argument, and there are actually very few examples of that being true.
I believed him until I...
Grade inflation is a problem. I'd say yes, that's a problem. I'd say worried about AI being a bigger problem these days than grade inflation because everyone's using it. I at least talked to someone who is in college and say, or just graduated from college. She said everyone used AI in college for everything. So I pity those going through college now because if the AI can do your job for you, when you get to a company, it's going to end up taking your job.
Looked at College Board data that shows students with C grades in high school, but great SAT scores do better in college than A+ students with lower SAT scores. That's true for all grade levels. Better test scores strongly predict success in college. This MIT student got good SAT scores. He tweeted, "The SAT is fairer than the alternative."
It's fairer than the alternative by far. I agree with that because you can have a biased professor. But the SAT, it's not racist. You just fill in those little circles and it's graded by a machine. It doesn't look at your skin color. It'll give you a completely fair score. Whereas needing to connect to professors, being the good student and everything over months, possibly actually racist teachers, etc.
Needing my parents to connect me with a professor.
A standardized test is like really the best thing we can do in order to like level the playing field.
By pushing this, you're just screwing the minority student who is really smart, but goes to a lousy high school, has family problems, and got low grades.
Presumably, if that kid is really good.
Because homework is a good example. Schools do a lot of homework. Maybe you don't have time to do homework. You have problems at home. You're really smart, like that kid, but you just don't have time to do the homework because you have to help babysit the other kids when you get back, or you have to do all the chores at the house because your parents are exhausted from working 2 jobs. I don't know. So grades, whereas you could just study for the SAT and do well on that. And it's something entirely in your control. Because even, I'd say using a tutor can increase your score hugely, but you can download free study guides for the SAT. And if you do that, read everything in those study guides, do tons of practice tests, that's nearly as good as getting a tutor. It will also boost up your score by 300-400 points. So you can self-study for the SAT too. It's easier with a tutor, but you don't need one. The rote memorization is what the SAT is. I wouldn't say rote memorization. It's familiarity of it with the test, like how to prioritize the types of questions. If you learn, all the different types of questions, that might be the memory part of it you're talking about. It'll improve your score. But it's not just memory. It's also critical thinking and other skills.
At doing academic work, that student would have shown brilliantly in her high school classes.
One irony here is that it was standardized tests that once helped bring underrepresented groups into colleges. Jews, for example.
Jews were called too bookish or too clannish or too overly focused on their academics.
Jason Riley of the Wall Street Journal points out that after SATs helped Jews break in, Harvard reduced focus on tests to prevent a dangerous increase in the proportion of Jews. Now colleges do to Asians what they once did to Jews.
It's about making these campuses look right, using them to make your college catalog look more colorful. It's about aesthetics.
Diversity and inclusion.
It's not about learning.
Of course, learning disparities start well before college.
If you want more diversity, you should open up more of these charter schools who somehow seem to be able to prepare these kids for these tests.
Some do succeed at doing that. Cool.
Yeah. If you want more of a certain group to make it to top universities, then spend money and develop programs catered to those groups to actually make them more prepared for those universities so they can get in.
School is boring.
No, it's not.
These charter school students just got their college acceptance notices. But those successful charter schools are criticized.
They're not under the control of the teachers' unions.
Allowing school
The teachers' unions, one of the banes of America.
choice, he says, would do more to close the race gap than eliminating tests.
And if you eliminate the test, John, you're just going to delay where it shows up elsewhere in this child's life. So you're not doing that child any favor.
But woke educators want to eliminate tests to make it easier for them to control
Proper funding to public schools. I would counter that if you have overpaid teachers that you can't fire because of teachers' unions, and it doesn't matter how much funding you give the school, or maybe you take all the incompetent teachers, move them to the side, keep billing their salaries because of teachers' union, then you hire a whole bunch of new competent teachers? Is that what you're suggesting? It's like 2 or 3 times the proper funding? No, the inability to fire bad teachers, I think, is one of the biggest problems in America. If they're not good, you should not be teaching.
Which racial groups are admitted? And today, what the woke want, the woke get. You're losing this argument. Many schools are getting rid of tests.
I think that's sad. You have turned oftentimes bright kids into artificial failures by mismatching them with schools.
What's wrong with these schools saying we want a more diverse student body?
How you achieve it is what I take issue with.
Yes, exactly. That's what I've always said. If you want, like, you don't have diversity quotas, you just organize programs like the charter schools, perfect example, and bring up, if you want more diversity in black communities, and make there more qualified black students. It's just like the whole crime thing, where they say defund the police because the police arrest more black people. Well, maybe you address the root cause of blacks committing more crime because there's disproportionately more poverty among blacks. You work to solve that issue, and that would reduce the number of blacks arrested. The defund the police is an extreme, it's not a solution. It's just, we don't want to arrest so many black people, so let's just delete the police. It's so stupid.
There's this assumption, we just get these kids in the door, they'll be fine, they'll do okay. No, they won't, and they're being set up to fail. I see no progress in getting a bunch of black kids admitted to MIT and then having them flunk out or struggle when they don't need to be struggling, because they could be going to another school and doing quite well and actually graduate.
True.
It's not working.
It wasn't. And now, finally, schools acknowledge that.
Harvard University is now the latest school reinstating its standardized testing requirements.
Yale University reversing course. Dartmouth College issuing
I think they'll be able to find black students that have high SAT scores and are much more likely to actually succeed at MIT.
a similar decision.
Every Ivy League school has brought back testing, and other schools are following suit. They finally admit what the data always showed. Tests are useful.
Study revealed standardized test scores were a better predictor of academic success than a high school GPA.
I'm glad schools now admit the tests are useful. It's absurd that for years, woke activists got them banned. Here at Stossel TV,
I'll add that nowadays, I think standardized testing is even more accurate, because I think there's a lot of, like Kibble Hughes said, grade inflation. And there is DEI within schools itself by teachers. The student's black, so I'll just give him a little bit better grade. And yeah, that type of nonsense. I mean, wokeness has infiltrated every part of America, and there's a big backlash to it, but it's still entrenched. It's going to take another decade to root it out entirely. But the fact that they bring back SAT scores for college admissions is a good step, especially in the age of AI, like I said, where you have some students that probably have a 4.0 grade average entirely by relying on AI, but that won't help them in an SAT test. AI can't take your SAT test for you, at least not yet. Anyway, this was an interesting video. It'll be on YouTube. Like and subscribe, come watch on Kick or Twitch, and I'll see you next video. Bye.